What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. On this week's episode, I want to have a little discussion about hunting knives, not only what I look for, but some things I think are pretty important criteria in any good hunting knife, so stick around. So in my personal opinion, a good hunting knife is a knife that is going to be sturdy and robust enough to stand up to all the tasks that are required during a hunting type situation. Everything from field dressing to breaking game down if you're needing to pack game out, that is, skinning, including processing. I've oftentimes end up using the same knife that I use for everything else to actually break down that meat and get it into plastic wrap and bags to be put into the freezer for the year. So in order to meet all those criteria, I feel like it's not something that just any old knife off the shelf is going to be good enough. I definitely think that you should put more thought into it than maybe some do in order to have something that's not going to let you down. It's the right size, it's easy and safe to handle, which is pretty big. I personally went on a witch hunt last year to find what I thought was gonna be, for me, the perfect hunting knife, and I had certain criteria for that knife that I wanted to talk about before I go into what I have and what I ended up settling on. So the first thing that to me is pretty important is it has to be a fixed blade knife. Now, there are a lot of great knife options out there that are folding knives. A lot of the old timers, and some of you may still carry the folding buck knife with the leather sheath that you carry on your belt, or some guys carry it in their pocket. I wish I could remember what model those were, what number, but I've used them. My dad even used them growing up, and they're a good option, a folding knife. But whenever you already have maybe blood on your hands from handling the animal, or your hands are cold and you're losing dexterity or whatever, for me, just a folding knife doesn't check the boxes that I need of a good hunting knife. I prefer to just pull a knife out of a sheath and it be ready to use, rather than fooling around with unfolding something or taking it out of a case. The second criteria that I look for once you get past the fixed blade part of it is it has to be a full tang knife. And if you don't know what a full tang knife is, the tang of a knife is essentially the handle portion, or the lower portion below the blade, if you will, and either how long that is or what way that it's shaped. There's rat tail tangs, there's half tangs, full tangs. It's basically how the metal that creates the blade carries through the handle below it. A full tang would be, you look at a knife and you look at the top of the handle and you see where the metal from the blade carries all the way through to the pommel or the bottom, and you roll it underneath and you see the exact same thing. So basically a blade was just ground out of a piece of metal, and handle laminations fastened to the side of it to create a handle. That's essentially a full tang knife. They are the strongest knife, the most durable, and I think are most likely to meet all the criteria as far as the demands that a good knife was going to have, even outside of hunting, just working around camp, maybe processing down kindling or what have you, bushcraft type scenarios. You know, it's, for me, to have few knives but good knives that do a variety of tasks is pretty important. The third thing that I look for in a good hunting knife is the size. If you're carrying it on your belt, like I said, always kind of use the buck 119, I think it was, a pretty good sized knife over the years, and it's just a lot of knife to carry. It's not unwielding or anything like that, but when you're packing in and you've got other weight and stuff going on, waist belt from your pack around you and stuff, having that much less knife and to wield around and have to use for things, I prefer that. Some guys like more knife as long as it's not completely unmanageable, but I like to stay inside that 5 inches of blade length and about 10 inches, I guess, overall. I like to stay well within that, and to me that seems to be the most versatile size for what I do. So the fourth and final criteria I wanted to mention is the handle material. To me, it's extremely important because, like I said, if you have a knife handle that has real slick material, the chances of you having that knife slip out of your hand or not being able to safely handle it and hang on to it, especially whatever you're field dressing, you're having to get in around the diaphragm and stuff, to where your hands are soaked, your knife is soaked, and it's hard to hang on to things as it is. Having a knife handle that is hard to hang on to, it's a recipe for disaster, and I know plenty of people who've got pretty nasty injuries during the field dressing process because of having a knife that they can't hang on to and handle safely. I wasn't totally opposed to a wood handle as long as it wasn't gloss finished, like your old hickory knives or whatever. There's just basically raw wood that's oiled, with tung oil or something of that matter to keep it from weathering. More raw wood like that, I think, is okay. I think that you're going to be able to hang on to it a lot better, but you also, if you care about the way your knife looks, you run the risk of it staining from blood and dirt and stuff like that more than you would maybe some other material choices. Me personally, I like a really textured handle to a knife, whatever material that has to be to do that. Rubber is okay as well, like a rubberized grip. I've had pretty good experience with rubber over molded grips like that. They seem to work okay as well. G10 scales are great as well, very easy to hang on to, and your hands are wet and your knife is coated as well. There's plenty of good options out there, but it's something that you definitely need to take into consideration. Even in camp use, when you're using it to baton through wood to make tinder or kindling, you don't want something that's going to be difficult to hang on to, where you're going to run the risk of hitting yourself and getting a serious injury. That's the main criteria that I look at. So with all that in mind, I will bring this full circle into the knife that I choose, and to maybe give you guys some direction as well by being able to see all of my criteria into one knife. So this is my knife. This is a general purpose 2 made by Chris Stroup of Stroup Knife Company in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Chris is an awesome guy. He's a fellow veteran. Him and a family member of mine served together overseas as well. And he just does awesome work. And ever since I saw his knives, I knew I had to get one. And this knife met all the criteria that I had as far as being a good hunting knife. Not only a good hunting knife, but this has since become my daily carry. I haven't carried a folding knife in probably about a year now, and I don't miss carrying a folding knife. This is on my hip every single day, and it's the perfect size to where I don't really know that it's there. It's approximately a 4-inch blade and about 8 inches overall, and it's got a slight drop point to it, but The steel and the hardening process that he used, I wish I could tell you right off the top of my head what steel that he used. I think it's like 1095 or something along those lines. I may be incorrect on that, but he uses good steel. He uses a good hardening process, and just the detail that he puts into all of his knives is astounding. It's a joy to use. It feels good in the hand. It has G10 scales, which I was super excited about. I love G10 scales on a knife. It's full tang, so the metal of the blade carries all the way through the handle and creates the shape of the handle. He files finger grooves and texturing grooves into the scales that makes it very easy to hold on to and just extremely ergonomic. I've broke a couple deer down with this now, and I was so impressed. It handles deer and any large game perfectly fine for no bigger than it is. Again, the size aspect, an 8-inch knife to me, this is a perfect size knife for everything. I use this doing bushcraft and stuff out in the woods, and even like I said earlier, you know, batoning through wood to make tinder and kindling. And this knife works awesome for that. It holds a great edge, and just the fact that it's made by a fellow veteran in the United States, that's a big point for me, and being able to support a small business, American family-owned business, is important to me as well. The sheath that it comes with, I'm pretty happy with as well, because that's another point that I didn't really touch on because I didn't think that it really fell into the top 4 that are really important to me. But the sheath, I'll set this down, is a very high quality Kydex sheath that is perfectly form fit to the knife, and the belt clip that is attached to it is multi-position, so you can either wear it straight up and down like I do on my hip, or it can be rotated to wear the knife sideways facing in either direction depending on what side you want to pull it from. So I know some guys like to carry their knife on their back to where they can pull it from their back. You can do that with this sheath and belt clip. It's very sturdy, very robust. It's got a pretty cool locking mechanism on the back. You can flip this little lock down, pinch it together, and it opens right up. So if you needed to take this on or off your belt or molly or backpack straps or something along those lines, maybe you can do it without having to feed a belt through a loop anymore and take your belt off your waist. It's just really neat design, really forward thinking, out of the box, and I've loved it. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I said, this knife has been on my hip every single day for almost a year now, and there's some mornings, granted, that I get up and put my knife on my hip and think, man, it seems like a lot of knife to carry on your side every day, but again, I don't really know that it's there. And the joys of, for me, carrying a knife every day that has this kind of craftsmanship. It's a fixed blade, there's nothing to flip open anymore, or springs that fail and break, and then the same knife that I carry with me every day is still on my hip whenever I head to the woods or head back into public land or whatever to hunt and to fish and to do bushcraft type stuff. It's the same knife always, the one that I'm familiar with handling and using, and it holds up to all the tasks that is required of it for me. Stroup Knives, Chris Stroup, Fayetteville, North Carolina. He's got a website. He's on Instagram, Facebook. Go check him out. Show him some love. If you're looking for a knife, he's got several different models. I just had a friend buy one recently. So go check him out. You won't be disappointed. The craftsmanship is out of this world. So a couple other things I wanted to mention while I've got you on here talking about knives is the other things that I think are important to have while hunting that meet that cutting tool of the 10 C's of survivability or bushcrafting criteria, or fall into that as maybe a type of redundancy. I carry a couple different knives. That's one of the few things that's a redundancy in my pack whenever I'm out, is a secondary knife. And I'm pretty sure I got it in here. Yes, here it is. I carry my Mora. I carry it as a neck knife, usually tucked inside my shirt whenever I'm out doing stuff. I really like my Mora. I don't think this is a full tang knife by any means. I think these are only like $16, but for the price, Swedish steel, high carbon steel, you can't beat it. These are sweet knives and they stay sharp, and they've got a rubber type grip on them, and very safe, very easy to handle, awesome for doing some of the camp tasks, batoning through small pieces of wood and stuff like that to create kindling. But it also has a 90-degree spine that I use with my ferrocerium rod. So it kind of makes up for where this knife lacks, I guess you could say. I have it on me always anyway, and I like to have a second knife in case you, I hate to say it, but in case you need to do a task that may be less desirable with your couple $100, you know, custom made knife. But not to say that it can't handle the task, but there's just some things that I'm more comfortable doing and it's better suited for using the Mora. And I think a Mora is a great knife if you're doing bushcraft style stuff, and honestly, maybe even if you needed a well-made budget hunting knife, full blade knife for hunting, I would suggest a Mora. It's not made in China. Like I said, these are made in Sweden, and they're well constructed, and they're somewhere around that $16 to $20 mark for this basic knife. And they have a really nice plastic sheath, kind of like a fillet knife or something, and they don't come out, they stay locked in well, and they even have a weep hole to keep from water being and moisture building up inside here and rusting your blade. But I just keep my Uberleben ferrocerium rod right there on the same lanyard, neck lanyard, as the knife, so they're right there together because I use them together. So if you're looking for redundancy and as far as the cutting implements, definitely consider carrying another knife. It's come in handy for me multiple times. And then of course having a folding saw. A folding saw is irreplaceable in many ways. Here in we're still on the edge of the eastern woodlands here in where I live in Missouri. Most of the wood that I cut is smaller than a third of the surface area of the blade, which is a pretty good criteria to go by. It's nothing real expensive. I don't even remember where I got this one from, but it works great. And to apply to hunting, I have a terrible past of taking my fixed blade knives and a block of wood and batoning them right through the pelvic girdle of a whitetail in order to clean out the urinary tract and the anal cavities and all that, to get it all clean for processing. And I don't condone that. I have seen knives broke doing that. I've broke knives doing that, doled and chipped the devil out of blades doing that. Use your saw, and if nothing else in your hunting pack, carry a saw, because not only can you use it to cut limbs out of your way or to cut brush to brush in a ground blind, but that will fly right through the pelvic bone on a deer just fine, or rib cage, or cut the legs off if you're trying to break down quarters or whatever, and you don't know how to do that with a fixed blade knife, which I encourage everybody to learn how to do that with a fixed blade knife. But a saw just has so many purposes, so definitely always carry a saw like that while you're hunting. That's pretty well all I got, guys. Just wanted to really hit on the cutting tools and the criteria I think is extremely important for a good hunting knife. And whatever you guys are using now, if you like it, you know, continue to use it if it works for you. But I put plenty of knives through paces, and this is what really works for me. I'm not saying it's going to work for you. So anyway, thanks for watching this video, guys. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you're notified whenever more episodes drop. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay safe, and I will see you next week.